As a private pilot, your certificate comes with specific privileges and important limitations under 14 CFR 61.113. First and foremost, you may not act as pilot in command of an aircraft that is carrying passengers or property for compensation or hire. In simple terms, you cannot get paid to fly people or cargo. However, there are several activities you are allowed to do. You may act as pilot in command in connection with a business, as long as the flying is only incidental to that business and not the main service provided. For example, if you're flying yourself to a business meeting, that's okay, as long as you're not being paid to transport anyone else. You may also share the operating expenses of a flight with passengers, but only under a very specific rule. You must pay no less than your proportional share. This is called the pro rata rule. For example, if you and two friends go flying and the total cost is $120, you must each pay at least $40. You are not allowed to let your passengers pay more than their fair share so that you pay less. The only expenses that can be shared this way are fuel, oil, airport expenditures, and rental fees. You cannot share costs like annual inspections or long-term maintenance. There are other scenarios where you may legally receive compensation or reimbursement. For example, you may act as pilot in command for a charitable, nonprofit, or community event flight described in Regulation 91.146. As long as both you and the event sponsor meet the regulatory requirements. You may also be reimbursed for expenses directly related to search and location operations, as long as those expenses only include fuel, oil, airport expenditures, or rental fees, and the mission is under the direction of a government agency. Additionally, if you are a qualified aircraft salesperson with at least 200 hours of flight time, you may demonstrate an aircraft in flight to a prospective buyer. Private pilots may also tow gliders or unpowered ultralight vehicles, provided they meet the requirements of Regulation 61.69. Finally, you can conduct production flight tests in light sport aircraft if you meet the requirements outlined in 61.113 and 21.190. Now, let's consider a scenario. Your aircraft's annual inspection is due, and your friends who frequently fly with you offer to help pay for it. While this may sound helpful, it's not allowed under 61.113. The regulation only permits cost sharing of operating expenses on a per-flight basis, like fuel and rental fees, not fixed or long-term costs like inspections or maintenance. So even if they're frequent passengers, they cannot contribute to the annual. To legally act as a required pilot flight crew member of a civil aircraft, you must have three things in your physical possession or readily accessible in the aircraft. These are your pilot certificate, a valid government-issued photo ID, and a current medical certificate, unless you fall under an exception, such as flying under Basic Med. If an FAA inspector approaches you during pre-flight and requests a ramp inspection, you are required to present your pilot certificate, medical certificate, and photo ID. You must show these upon request from the FAA administrator, an authorized representative of the National Transportation Safety Board, federal or local law enforcement, or a representative of the Transportation Security Administration. Next, let's define what qualifies as a high-performance airplane and what you must do to fly one. A high-performance airplane is any aircraft with an engine of more than 200 horsepower. To legally act as pilot in command of such an aircraft, you must receive and log ground and flight training from an authorized instructor, either in the aircraft or a simulator that represents it. Your instructor must also provide a one-time endorsement in your logbook certifying that you're proficient in operating high-performance airplanes. If you log time as PIC in a high-performance airplane before August 4, 1997, you do not need the endorsement. Beyond high-performance and complex aircraft, there are two other types of airplanes that require specific training and logbook endorsements from an instructor, even if you're already a certified pilot. The first is a high-altitude airplane. This is defined as any pressurized aircraft with a service ceiling or maximum operating altitude, whichever is lower, above 25,000 feet means sea level. To fly one, you must complete ground and flight training and receive an endorsement certifying your competence. The second is a tailwheel airplane. To act as pilot in command of a tailwheel aircraft, you must receive and log flight training in a tailwheel airplane and obtain an endorsement from an instructor. If you flew a tailwheel airplane as PIC before April 15, 1991, you are exempt from this requirement. A complex airplane has three key features: retractable landing gear, flaps, and a controllable pitch propeller. Some complex airplanes may also have a full authority digital engine control system, or FADEC. To act as pilot in command of a complex airplane, you must receive and log ground and flight training in either the aircraft itself or a simulator that represents it. You also need a one-time logbook endorsement from an instructor certifying your proficiency. Like with high-performance airplanes, if you logged PIC time in a complex aircraft before August 4, 1997, you are not required to have the endorsement. Finally, let's define three key terms that are essential when discussing pilot certification: category, class, and type. These definitions are found in 14 CFR Part 1. A category is a broad classification of aircraft. Examples include airplane, rotorcraft, glider, and lighter than air. A class is a more specific classification within a category, based on similar operating characteristics. For example, single-engine land and multi-engine sea are both classes within the airplane category. Lastly, type refers to a specific make and basic model of aircraft. For instance, the Boeing 737, the Cessna 172, and the Cirrus State Route 22 are all different types. Pilots are only required to have a type rating for aircraft that are either turbojet powered or have a maximum takeoff weight over 12,500 pounds, unless otherwise specified.